We've got a beautiful day for the first time in a while from down on the coast, so I'm glad to be here in some sunshine. So welcome to Jackson today. Those of you that have driven in, look forward to presenting this young group over here some honors today for sure. I want to remind you, if you do have a cell phone, that you please silence that at this point. Also want to remind you that we are being live streamed across our state, anybody else in the world that wants to watch. This is the Mississippi Board of Education meeting for March the 7th, 2024. It is 10 o'clock a.m. We are on the 4th floor of Central High School in the boardroom. This is the location of the Mississippi Department of Education is 359 Northwest Street, Jackson, Mississippi. So I do call our meeting to order. We have one member who is with us virtually today. So Dr. Baird, if you can tell us who you are and where you are.
Lindy Barrett, Biloxi, Mississippi.
Thank you, ma'am. If you will, please rise for the flag and invocation. Mr. McGehee will lead us in the pledge, and Mr. Pruitt in the invocation.
Attention, salute, pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You would bow your heads, please. God, we come to you today on a beautiful day, and we know that you have blessed each one of us, and we thank you for the blessings you give to us all the time. We ask you to look over the work that we do for the families and the children in this state. We ask you to guide us and direct us, and we ask these things in your Son's name. Amen.
Amen. Board members, you have before you the minutes from the February 15th, 2024 special call board, and the February 27th, 2024 special call board meeting. May I have a motion to accept those two sets of minutes?
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Werner, Mr. Pruitt on the second. Any questions about those? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Everybody's good. You also have in front of you today the agenda for today's meeting. May I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Mr. McGehee
Second.
and Mr. Jacobs. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that carries. You also have before you the consent agenda. For those that are new in our meetings, we receive our board information several days before this meeting, and we're able to review those, contact staff if we have any questions. So not to keep you here till midnight tonight, we try to do a consent agenda to cover those day-to-day operation things that we have here in the Mississippi Department of Education. So motion for consent agenda?
Move.
Mr. Pruitt?
Second.
Ms. Werner? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Look, I believe we're to a recognition ceremony.
Okay.
Good morning, Mr. East, Dr. Margino, and State Board members. It is my honor to present to you the board recognition for the month of March. This month, we are honoring the North Panola Career and Technical Center for being named the National High School winner of the U.S. Department of Homeland Security's Invent to Prevent contest. This contest challenged students across the nation to create and implement programs and tools to prevent targeted violence and hate. I would like to invite North Panola Superintendent Chad Spence and CTE Director Anteria Ballantyne and their award-winning team to join Mr. East and Dr. Margino at the front of the boardroom.
It won't come out. Get ready to move it. Ray. Move that chair. Won't fit. Right, the other way.
A little bit your way there, Mr. Regino.
Yeah, man. Through this little area here, so we may have to do a. Yeah.
Okay, great. Okay. All right. All right. The students joining
Thank you,
us.
because I'm
The
a
students joining us today are Nikaya Burge. You want to give a wave? Taylor Bolton, Noah Bolton, Trinity Davis, Markia Fondren, Janiyah Lyons, Kylan Miller, Nikara Moore, Melissa Mackey, Serenity Taylor, Trinity Taylor, Chelsea Webb, Amaris Wright, couldn't be here today, and Desmond Young, okay? And their advisors are here as well, Erica Taylor and Nisa Johnson, okay? This team of students and their advisors, I'm sure, traveled to Washington, D.C. in January for their final round of competition. They presented their projects to a panel of judges and were the top high school team in the nation, awarded funding to support their proposed initiative. As part of a semester-long project, each team evaluated a threat such as campus safety, cyberbullying, and violent extremism. The teams then created a program or tool to decrease the likelihood of targeted violence. This Mississippi team created Peer No Pressure, an initiative to provide students ages 12 to 18 with a safe, supportive space to minimize bullying and peer pressure through peer-led discussions, engaging skits, and a mentorship program. Peer No Pressure cultivates an environment where peer voices matter and produce change. Peer No Pressure fosters empathy and a culture of prevention to create safe spaces and positive relationships that form a united front against bullying and peer pressure. This team will use their award to further advance and scale their project. Ms. Ballantyne, you are welcome to make remarks at this time.
Good morning, everyone. We just want to thank you all for recognizing us and also motivating these young children to continue to target school violence and say no to peer pressure. Thank you all for teaming with us, the North Panola community, and recognizing them. So again, thank you all.
Thank you. Okay.
Yours is better.
That's outstanding. Thanks for coming.
Good group. Thank y'all. Be safe on the way home. At this time, I'll call on our state superintendent to give his monthly report.
Okay, we've had a pretty busy month since we were last together. Of course, we'd like to welcome, Dr. Evans is with us today. Lance, we're glad to have you here. Since the last board meeting, presented to the House Ed Committee just about MDE, answered quite a few questions and so forth. As you guys know, the legislature is in full session. Was able to visit with the superintendent's group at MCED in Meridian, and had a good time to visiting with them. We had our superintendent advisory meeting yesterday as well. And in that, we did ask a director of Child Protective Services came as well, so we can kind of work on that communication piece between the school districts and CPS that we have to often work together. Was able to introduce our Lieutenant Governor and House Speaker over at the FFA luncheon last week. That was really good. Abigail from the CTE office, her and Brett, they really did a good job putting that on for our kids. So that was really good to visit. Also was able to visit and bring greetings at the fiscal conference down in Hattiesburg. Appreciate Mr. Pruitt being there as well. He was able to join us that morning. Then also had the privilege to visit with our student teacher interns at Mississippi State last week. That was a lot of fun, quite a few. It was real impressive to see how many kids are out student teaching and that will be entering the profession here in Mississippi this next year. So I was able to visit with them, and also they had an organization called Capturing Kids' Heart was there, and it was really good, just going on the common sense stuff of treating people the way one would want to be treated, and basically dealing with this is a people profession, and kind of to help these new teachers remember, and just the old saying, you really can't teach them until they know you care a little bit. And so it was really good, a good day over there. Accountability Task Force also met since the last board meeting. They'll meet again on April 5th. The Mississippi School Safety Summit, really appreciate everybody working on that. Chad Callender and his group kind of helped that, but we had quite a few groups. MDE was a part of it. Rankin County was kind of the big sponsor, but a lot of the different organizations from MASS and MASSA and MASSP and quite a few groups got together, and so it was real interesting. Had it was a parent from the Parkland, Florida school shooting that happened there years ago, but to hear kind of lessons learned and all that, just to make sure that our school districts are doing everything we can to mitigate and be as safe as we can. So it's always good to learn from others. So I appreciate Mr. McGarity and his team and everybody working together to put that on. It was really good. I also was able to attend some literacy training that our department was doing. They're always doing a good job. And then Dr. Vanderford and I had a initial meeting with Varsity Tutors that it's not done yet, Charlie, but we're looking, as you guys know, we've had in ESSER funds, we've had paper tutoring, which has been free to our schools for the past few years. Well, that goes away in September, but I had some initial conversations about some potential, nothing's done yet, but potential free tutoring opportunities through Varsity Tutors for our state that would last about another 4 years or so. And so, Charlie and Kate, it does include tutoring for AP assessments and ACT and all those things. So some of the things there. So we're excited about that, and we'll continue working on that. Not done yet, but we're trying to get there where it would be at no cost to our school districts. So that's hope. Let's see. Otherwise, of course, let's see. Legislative-wise, quite a bit's going on. I'm going to yield a moment or two, actually, to Holly Spivey. And let me say, Holly has done a tremendous job. She's kind of our ears and eyes at the Capitol most days, and has worked a lot. But I wanted to just kind of give you guys an update since we've kind of gone through. I think we've gone from 260-something education bills down to about 65 or 67. So I asked if Holly would just share a little legislative update.
Okay. Good morning, Mr. East, Dr. Morgino, and board members. I emailed a copy of the legislative update to you yesterday, and that had hyperlinks in there, but you also have a hard copy in your folder today. This past Tuesday was the deadline for general bills to come out of committee. Around that time, I believe I was tracking around 275 education-related bills, and after that date, it's now down to about 61 bills. From there, the bills moved to the floor, and the deadline for floor action is March the 14th. The bills you'll notice on this sheet, the bills that have notes on there are the general bills that MDE had requested. And so those include, as you'll see on there, a couple of highlights, I guess, would be like the school attendance officers is one of them. And then also the transition of the district, the 2 school districts that are an achievement school district into a district of transformation. Going back to those 2 bills, staff at MDE they have been extremely helpful in conversations and in meetings with legislators and House and Senate leadership around those 2. We have had the opportunity to also meet with other legislators that represent Yazoo and Humphreys counties regarding those achievement school districts and districts of transformation, and just to answer their questions that they might have had around those bills. The notes that are provided to you are also the notes that are provided to the authors of those bills, so that when they're in a committee and they are explaining the bill, they'll have that. And then when they're on the floor, they will also have that as notes for them provided. In a number of cases, I've had senators or House members reach out to me and say, could I meet with you prior to this so that you could explain this bill to me? And I also appreciate the staff who have provided those notes. And then, because this is not my lane, and so they have also been very patient with me in explaining that so that I can explain that to those legislators. So I appreciate that also. Almost all of our bills made it out of committee. There were a couple that did not, or in some cases there might have been a committee substitute. You will notice on here, though, that maybe there might be a House bill that looks very similar to a Senate bill, and in most cases, our bills had a companion bill for both sides. In some cases, the bill might have made it out of the House, for example, but maybe that companion bill didn't make it out of the Senate. But oftentimes, what will happen is that when that bill moves over to the Senate will just take up the House version of that bill. But again, that's something that I will be tracking to make sure that, if there's a question on the Senate or the House side for that bill, that question is answered and they're going to take that bill up. Also, some of these bills, even though that I sent this yesterday, they started floor action. And so in some cases, more of these bills have already passed the floor. And they're either headed over to the House or headed over to the Senate, either way. So I will not go over every single one of the ones that are on the bills to watch because that's quite a few, but I would like to point out a couple of them to you. The first one is House Bill 867 and also Senate Bill 2691. That's about the portability or the transfer bill. Those are going to be two that they're definitely highlights for me to be watching. And so there are pieces in there that are troublesome. And so we are having conversations with legislators about those two bills. The second one would be the funding formula, which is House Bill 1453, and then the Senate version of that is Senate Bill 2332. And I'm sure that you've all seen this, but that the House version of the MAP funding formula did pass yesterday. And the last bill that we are watching is also, or that I'm watching closely, is Senate Bill 2689. And this is the one dealing with the end of course assessments. And so we have had the opportunity, this was authored by Senator DeBar, and it was a bill that the Lieutenant Governor was very much in favor of. And so they were gracious enough to ask our staff to come over and have multiple meetings with them to look over that, and if there were some revisions that we felt needed to be made, that they gave us that opportunity to do that. And so that's, of course, we're very thankful for that. But I will stop right there, and if you have any questions, please feel free to ask me. And if you think of something later on after you've clicked on a link and you've read it, then feel free to contact me then as well.
Any questions?
Right.
Thank
All
you.
right. Well, that'll
Okay.
conclude that. Thank you,
Oh,
Holly.
Oh, I will say this, though, too. After that deadline of March the 14th, I will revise this list and then send it back out and note, what bills made it and then what died as well. Oh, I would like to say this, too, because Dr. Evans and I found this out this morning when we were walking over, is that this is not on here because it died, but the Winter Reed Loan Scholar, that accidentally died in both the House and the Senate. So they are actively trying to figure out how to put that back in somewhere in code section. So that was an accident. All right, thank y'all.
All right. Thanks, Holly.
You good?
I'm good. Thank you.
So as Holly leaves, there are three names on my today's presentation. One is I know Holly is spending many hours before breakfast and after breakfast trying to keep up with all of these bills. So Holly, from as chairman of the board, and I think speaking for the board as well, thank you for the work that you're doing. Also, I want to take some time to thank Courtney Van Cleve and her world for the work that several school districts sent up concerning teacher recruitment and retention, and her working through helping us get that into a good graphic form. And on a personal note, Mr. Burrows, thank you for getting that accountability task force stuff so I can watch it. So thank you very much for that work. So my work this month has really been the same thing that I think that Ray and Lance and Holly is just watching these bills from the superintendent's level and knowing when to jump and when not to jump, so to speak. So again, thank you for y'all's work too as y'all are moving through this 4-month legislative session rather than the normal 3-month legislative session. And now, the second fun part of our meeting is our student reports, and we'll begin with our young lady, our junior rep, Ms. Kate Riddle.
Morning, everybody. So as we gear up for the end of the third 9 weeks, we have spring break next week. We have dance tryouts this afternoon, so that's where I'll be headed after this. And this past week, I was in Columbus, Mississippi, at the MSMS Mu Alpha Theta math competition, which was my first time going. I think it was Lafayette's second or third time going. We did fairly well for not being a returning school. And we did third in the potpourri section, sorry. And it was just kind of like a mix of logic puzzles and stuff. And then all around, we got the 6th placing high school, it was a lot of fun. It was different than anything I've ever done before. So on that note, I'm going to talk to you about one of my favorite sections, which is logic puzzles and things that I learned from the gifted program at my elementary school, which at Lafayette we call QUEST, which stands for Question, Understanding, Examine, Solve, and Think. And I know at my elementary school, we definitely instilled those traits into everyone that was in the gifted program. And what I love most about the gifted program is that it gives students the opportunity to express their intelligence and their creative way of thinking through unconventional ways. We did a lot of projects or logic puzzles or games and field trips. And I remember one time we even did a play. And it was just things that were different from the regular classroom that still, it was very beneficial. And like I said, one of my favorite parts was logic puzzles, which looking back, I remember thinking I would never solve them or never be able to figure out whose dog belonged to who. But I see those things that I learned from logic puzzles in my everyday life. For example, one of my favorite things to do every morning are the New York Times games. And the connections is really hard. And I can see the way that I've thought in the logic puzzles in the way that I think in the connections or the Wordle. And also in school, too, the way I analyze or adapt an algebra equation or an essay prompt. And just the way I manipulate those is similar to how I learned to manipulate logic puzzles. And it's just something that I tap into. And another highlight was the niche units of study that we took on. I remember learning about space or owls or Greek mythology and so much more. And those were just, and we learned differently than just learning from a textbook or doing a slideshow. When we learned about owls, I remember we got like owl pellets sent in and we got to dissect them. And it was one of like the most standout moments from Quest for me. When we did space, we got like a planetarium visit. It was just a lot of fun and it was really different. And one more thing that was profound in Quest was that the same students that were in my Quest classes are the same students that I'm friends with now or I see in my AP and honors classes because of how we learned how to strive for excellence. The same students who are competing for the fastest puzzle solving time are the same students who are competing for the top spots in our classes. And we only have, in my opinion, I have Quest to thank for that, and my Quest teachers who really put that perfection striving attitude in me and all my other peers and friends and everybody who's in Quest. And
Great, good job. I need to know how many folks have actually done the owl pellet. By show of hands, we got some folks.
Disgusting.
it was so much fun.
Come on now, but it's cool. It could be disgusting. It's pretty cool.
terrible.
It's also one that you love to see on the poster boards in schools. They'll put all the little items that they have recovered. Charlie, I don't think you can beat the owl pellets today, but let's see if you can. Man.
No, I'm still figuring out whose dog belongs to whom over here. So good morning, everybody. I know everybody's having a great spring and getting ready for spring break. I'm about ready to get out of Oxford for a little bit. We're almost there. So as Mr. East has previously referenced, we're getting to the last few times that I get to come speak to y'all. So with that, it's caused a good deal of reflection on my part on what I feel is worth saying about this seat. Next month, I'll give a report on the student representative position, what it means to me, my experiences, these lessons, and how grateful I am for this opportunity. This month, though, I want to use the student report to take a big picture look at our state's public education system in the future. As many of you know, I'm active in my school's student council. Last week, Oxford's superintendent asked that I have my student council sit down with a consultant working to create Oxford's strategic 5-year plan, which all of y'all are very experienced with 5-year plans. When I first heard that we'd be involved in this process, it frankly worried me. 5 years is a long time, and a 5-year plan must be incomprehensibly massive. So when we started the meeting, the consultant explained the rules, the process. For the students, it was very simple. He asked us 4 questions. Number 1, what does Oxford do well? Number 2, what can Oxford do better? Number 3, what does Oxford value? Number 4, in 5 years, what should Oxford be like? I'm sure you can all see where I'm going with this. This process caused some introspection for me as a student representative on the board, and I figured I would give some short answers to these questions in terms of Mississippi's education system. So, what does Mississippi do well? The short answer is Mississippi does a lot really well. To keep things brief, though, I'll focus on this. Mississippi and MDE has exceptional teachers and exceptional staff. Everyone in the classrooms and everyone sitting behind me, they're here to serve. They work tirelessly for our kids and their futures, and they do so articulately. They do what is right for the children, and it shows in Mississippi's results. Mississippi's rise would not have happened without the work of our teachers and MDE's staff, and they should be recognized more for their success and for their service. Now, one thing I already knew, and you all know, but proved in my student council meeting, is that for every one positive thing someone has to say about the organization, there are a dozen critiques. If you don't believe me, go look at the Mississippi news outlets. You'll be hard-pressed to find a compliment in any opinion piece. With this in mind, I'll try to answer number 2. What can Mississippi do better? As I've stated extensively, I believe Mississippi must improve their standardized test prep or seek another solution on the standardized testing front. Many schools in Mississippi provide their own ACT prep course, and that's great. Many of our students, though, are forced to take a test without preparation. Thus, they should either have the universal ability and equal opportunity to prepare for the test in an equitable way, or they should have the ability to opt out of the test. Mississippi does a lot of things really well, but I do believe there's room for improvement in standardized test prep. Now, what does Mississippi value? Question number 3. This answer may sound incredibly simple, but Mississippi values improvement. A decade ago, it was no secret that Mississippi schools struggled in comparison to other states. Now, Mississippi is steadily rising. Our students are receiving the gift of a world-class education, and our leaders have no intention of stopping here. Business leaders, public servants, and the general public all know that a solid education system is the key to Mississippi's success. Thus, we must keep improving. Now, the last question is the toughest answer, and it helped me put the next phase of my life into perspective. What do I want Mississippi to be in 5 years? Or 10 years, even? Of course, a million ideas rush into my head about what Mississippi could be. What sticks out, though, is that I want Mississippi to be a society that values education, and specifically literacy, with the buy-in from our parents and our community leaders. I want all Mississippi parents to understand that they are agents of change. They are. And by reading to their child for 30 minutes each night, they can change our state's trajectory. I want community leaders to support their schools and their public libraries so that Mississippi kids will have a shot at success through their education. We're on this path. Clearly, we have buy-in from the leaders in our state. Keeping in mind how much we value improvement, I want to see a state with every parent understanding how much agency they have in our shared future. Now, in 5 years, I'll hopefully be out of college and beginning my commission in the Army. And following that, I'll hopefully come home to serve. Mississippi has made incredible leaps and bounds over the past decade, and I can't wait to see what happens over the next one. Now, to all board members and MDE staff, I encourage you to ask yourself these 4 questions. And we all need to work on congratulating those who succeed in our state, supporting those who are improving our state, remembering our values, and keeping the big picture in mind. Thank you.
Right, So both of our student reps stayed true to their course. Kate has always reminded us that it's about all education, all levels, and not making sure that we don't have just one group doing better than the others. So Kate's message is always clear with that, and also keeping us reminded that there are a group of students who really want to excel. Charlie has constantly reminded us about the literacy piece, the importance of family. So through all of their presentations, they stay very true to their theme, and I thank you very much for being very wise. And we look forward to 5 years from now, and then back to you as a senior. Not trying to throw you out today, Charlie, but we know that day is coming. So thank y'all very much for your work. We have one subcommittee that's met, and Mr. Jacobs, internal accountability.
Well, we met because Charlie's leaving, we got to figure out how to replace him. But, you know, apparently, all the schools are seeing that Charlie's leaving, and 33 applicants have come to chase that spot, so, which is an increase from last year, so, with 17 school districts. So, proud of them. As we met about the screening committee, they will be, this next month, they'll be reviewing and rating applications and coming up with these 10 semifinalists, of which then the accountability subcommittee will begin interviewing those on May 1st and 2nd, of which we will then select the top 4 candidates for the board to interview on June 19th. And then they'll be appointing the student representative and alternative for all those interviews. And the new one will begin on January 1st, 2024, and ending of 2026. So, Charlie, we've got to find a replacement.
Yes, sir.
We also had discussion on proposed program evaluation process, and Dana Seymour gave us a evaluation of the process she's doing that will involve looking at upcoming contracts and program evaluations and such. We'll be presenting that later on in the next couple of months.
Very good. Well, that's work that we've been talking about for a while, so thank you very much for that. Any questions for our 2 student reps or our Bills group? All right, now to the orders of business today. So first item on the agenda is the approval and renewal of districts and schools of innovation for 24-25. Ms. Boone.
Good morning, Mr. East, Dr. Morgino, and board members. We are here today to present to you, as we do annually, the request for approval and renewal of districts and schools of innovation. And so that comes out of the Office of Secondary Education. So I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Clemens.
Good morning, Mr. East, Dr. Morgino, and board members. This is an annual event. Typically, we bring our applications for districts and/or schools of innovation in March of each year. Just a little background, since it's been March of last year. Mississippi Code 37179-1 established districts and schools of innovation, and subsequently State Board Policy Chapter 28.7 identifies the process for applying and becoming a district and/or school of innovation. Of course, this law and policy is designed to help school districts and schools really think outside of the box. You know, all of us want to prepare our students to be college and/or career ready. We here at the department are constantly looking at policy and law to see how we can make equitable access for all of our students to in fact become college and career ready. This law and policy gives districts the autonomy to really think outside of the box and to think about things that they can do differently to ensure that all students have access to a quality education. And then as far as our goals are concerned, you know, secondary lives in goal 2 for the most part, but a district of innovation can really hit on any of these 6. It is really up to the district and or the school the sky's the limit. You know, they are coming up with innovative ways to provide services to their students. So this is just a map of the state of Mississippi, and it shows you where our districts of innovation are, where our schools of innovation are. Then we also identify our early college high school programs. Many of you know that students beginning in the 9th grade can enter into dual enrollment where they are members of their school population earning Carnegie units, but they also are enrolled in a local community college, in some ways, sometimes a four-year college, and they have the opportunity to earn an associate's degree as well as a high school diploma during their high school years. The irony of that is that because colleges graduate first, lots of students who are successful in an early college, high school, and a middle college program, they actually receive their associate's degree, then they receive their diploma. And it's just the way, you know, the way the system works. But this just gives you an idea of what is happening in our state and what has happened with districts and schools of innovation in the last 8 years, 9 years. So the districts that we're bringing forth today, there are 2 new schools of innovations that I want to bring you. Western Line School District, they have already partnered with Mississippi Delta Community College to establish what they call Western Line Collegiate Academy, which is a middle college program. These students will enter into that community college their junior year and spend most of their junior and senior year acquiring credits toward an associate's degree. Those are going to be 11th and 12th graders from O'Bannon High School and Riverside High School, so it will impact both those high schools in the district. And their goal is to have 85% of those students earn that associate's degree. The nationwide average is about 70%. Because keep in mind, these early college and middle college high schools were designed initially to attract our first-generation college students, like myself, poverty, students who typically wouldn't think that they could go to college and be successful. If we can get them while they're in high school and prove to them that there is success, we can either get them their associate's degree or we can get them close enough that post-secondary, they can get that associate's degree. So Western Line, I'll be honest with you, they applied. They have no waiver request from the accreditation system. And this will actually be their second year. They already have an 11th grade cohort that will then go into their 12th grade year in 24-25. So we're really excited about that. And they've really worked hard to, they've gone through the process of making sure they build it before they fly it. Okay. New Albany Middle School also has asked to be awarded a School of Innovation. The middle school wants to institute a kind of a 5-by-5 block schedule where they can provide remediation and enrichment opportunities for all students that are tailored to specific learning needs. The innovation here is we do not have a lot of middle schools that do 5-by-5. We do have several high schools that do it, but they want to try this 5-by-5 block. Their goal is to increase overall proficiency. They have, and all of these goals are set in number. So they have a goal and they set it. And that way, over a 5-year period, we can look to see, is this innovation working toward the goals that you've set? They also want to look at growth of all of their students, but specifically growth of the bottom 25%. So New Albany Middle School has stepped out to become a school of innovation. And you have this information in your backup. I think the only waiver that they requested was the waiver for the 140 hours for a Carnegie unit credit and 70 for the half a credit, which is standard 13.2. New Albany Middle School offers approximately 10 Carnegie unit bearing courses at the middle school. And so they need that in order to do the 5-by-5 block and still have those Carnegie unit bearing courses in the middle school. Okay? So those are new programs. Now, Hattiesburg Public School, Hattiesburg High School specifically, is already a school of innovation. But in their 5-year process, they realized, you know, there are some modifications that we want to make. And so we work with them closely. It's not a just award it and be done with it. We work with them closely. So both Hattiesburg and Oxford requested a revision to their current plan. And what Hattiesburg wants to do is at the high school, they too want to offer a 5x5 block. Their reason for doing that is they want to provide greater opportunities for internships and externships, any type of work-based learning. They also want to increase CT course options and experiential learning opportunities. Sometimes at the high school, for those of you who maybe don't know, if a student is highly involved in an activity or an extracurricular, it is sometimes impossible for them to make choices that they want to make academically. I was in the band, and so that was a block in my schedule, and it limited me, and so I couldn't take a CTE program of study. And so the idea of the 5x5 block, although sometimes hard to maneuver, it does allow students more opportunity to kind of seek out what they want to do when they grow up. So Oxford School District, their revision is they currently offer a 5x5 block at the high school, and they want to extend that learning opportunity to their middle school. So just like with New Albany Middle School, Oxford Middle School would also have a 5x5 block, again, introducing more electives to students, committed to extracurricular activities, and allowing for greater continuity for their secondary students as a whole. And so that is our request today, would be that we approve the Schools of Innovation for Western Line, as well as New Albany Middle School, and then the revisions for Hattiesburg High School and Oxford School District. And I will take any questions. Yes, Ms. Warner?
I'm giving a very brief explanation of 5x5 schedule.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, so there are traditional schedules, there's block schedules, and really 5x5 is a block schedule. However, the traditional block schedule is four courses that are average of 97 minutes long, okay? All they do with a 5x5 is they add an additional block and shrink.
Got it. Thank you.
Okay? Yes, ma'am.
Any other questions?
Hey, Charlie.
Sure. So on these, or on these requirements rather, will MDE require that the courses are semester long, or does MDE care if they're year long in the block?
We do not, we do not dictate that. It is really up to the school district. If they offer a 4x4 block, those will be semester-long courses. If they offer a modified, which is an AB, typically they'll go all year in a rotation that way.
Even in 5x5, the courses can be year long?
Correct.
The classes are 75 minutes?
That's correct. Yes.
Any other questions? One comment, I am glad that there are 2 middle schools getting on the end of that spear for 5x5. So ever who the superintendent is of New Albany, I think probably in the room today, and also Charlie's home school district of Oxford, thank you for getting on the end of that spear and testing this model at the middle school level. I think it's going to be very impactful. Motion under Chief Academic Officer for item 1.
So moved.
Mr. McGehee,
Second.
Ms. Werner. Any other questions? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Action 2, we have Kim Wiggins with us today in place of our Felicia Gavin. So Kim, come on up. This is to award a contract with Creative Distillery. I'm going to leave it at that. We'll see where it goes.
I'm going to congratulate you in advance for making the board members look very closely at the agenda and the attachments. When you put the word distillery in it, I'm all in that. I want to know what you're talking about.
I told Dr. Gavin, I don't know if this is a setup or not, but we'll see. Good morning, Mr. East, Dr. Morgino, and other members of the board. As Mr. East has said, Kim Wiggins, Director of Compliance, sitting in for Dr. Gavin. The gray hair probably gave me away. Action 2 today, as I said, is an approval of a contract with Creative Distillery to develop technical and training videos and accompanying user guide, its guides in support of MSIS 2.0, but also MDE operations. The total contract value is $110,300, and the name is just Creative Distillery, doesn't denote anything other than to showcase their creativity, I guess. Are there any questions?
I think this is basically for the
Okay.
MSIS
All righty.
2.0, I believe, is what the.
Yes, so this will be to
Board
onboard
has
users for
to
MSIS
do a lot
2.0.
of
Very much a training module, so to speak, on how to work
Yes,
through that.
it is.
Any other questions? Motion to accept from the Office of Chief Operations Officer, item 2A.
So moved.
Jacobs. And that was Mr. Pruitt.
Okay.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item 3, you're still up.
Item 3. So there are 2 grants. The first grant is to award competitive grants to early learning collaboratives to onboard 3 new collaboratives with a total amount of $792,500. The second grant award is to the Mississippi School Boards Association to conduct basic training and continuing education for local school boards as is required by state statute. And that amount is $62,500. Are there any questions?
Questions there? Yes.
What input does anyone on staff have of the MSBA training content?
That is a good question.
A lot of times will have accreditation come over to their trainings. A lot of times our staff is involved as far as going and helping present at their training sessions for board members. But otherwise, as far as this, it's kind of in law that MSBA, well, no, kind of, it is in law that MSBA is the training, group for for board members across the state. But they often reach out to make sure they're keeping up as far as with anything coming into accreditation or anything like that. So
But for content development, so I went through, I'll be honest with you, I was a board member, a local board member, and went through that multiple times, and it became repetitive. It was not updated, it was the same thing, but we had to get our CEUs. I was wondering, is there any opportunity? And I realize this is
yeah.
kind of outside our purview, but do we have an opportunity?
yeah, I think we can always have conversation with them. I don't think there's been a whole lot as far as in developing their training. I think they've kind of done that. I may be misspeaking. I'm really not. I'm really not 100%
Suspect you're not
sure.
misspeaking.
Okay.
I also know that they do use the national model in trying to make sure some of those things get pushed down. The difficult part of it is their training and the number of new board members. So yes, I attend those. I think we have one on the coast this Saturday. So that first initial, it's the same old thing every year, but then you look across the room and 2/3 of those people are brand new to the seat and have, no clue about the boards, speaking as one voice, working through policy and so on. So something probably to look at for sure. Any other questions? Under the Office of Chief Operations Officer, can I have a motion to pass 3A and 3B? Miller. Second?
Second.
Ms. Werner, I'm getting adjusted.
I know, I feel,
All in favor say aye.
hi.
Any opposed? All right, we come to our consent agenda.
Thank you.
So we have before us all of those items that we have looked over before our meeting. Any questions? Shouldn't be. All right, so on the consent agenda, do I have a motion to approve items A through R?
So moved.
So moved, Mr. Miller.
Second.
Second, Mr. Jacobs. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Is there a need for executive session? Okay. Is there anyone that needs to make a report on any meetings they've attended in the course of the last month?
Mr. Chairman, I'd be glad to share a little bit from the AASA convention in San Diego, California recently. And Charlie was talking about a 5-year plan, a number of plans out there across the country. People are going to the portrait of a graduate, going to see what their outcomes are, what the post-secondary success is, and also creating their plans, and they call them 2035. And I'm kind of like, okay, I'll bite. What's 2035? That's this year's first graders. Yeah, so, well, 2036 of this year's kindergartners. Yeah. And it was interesting to hear the conversation about their thought processes about what does it look like in 2036. Knowing they're going to change the delivery, the reception, and maybe the model of deliveries will go forward. So it's a thought process discussion, and I'm interested to see several districts presented from Henrico, Virginia on the East Coast to a couple on the West Coast. So maybe we need to look at following that and see their outcomes going forward.
Good point. Anybody else, meetings, travels? Anybody that need approval for meetings coming up? Any other business we have for today? Let you know that the April board meeting will be held on April the 18th here in Jackson, Mississippi at the Central High School Board in the fourth floor boardroom, starting at 10 o'clock a.m. So our motion to adjourn today.
So moved.
Second, Mr. Jacobs, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Carries. Thank you very much for your service as board members, and to staff, thank you very much for what you do every day for our children.